Hello everyone, today I will talk about chapter 7, strategies that promote understanding, thinking, and engagement. And I will be talking about pages 190 to 194. Okay? So firstly, one of the strategies in teaching students the book talks about critical thinking. It says, effective critical thinking is when you create a climate for learning where a student would agree with the statement, this assignment is hard, but I can do it. It is important that when the student engages in critical thinking, they are prepared to give an answer and provide evidence or rationality from knowledge they have gained. So this is basically just explaining what critical thinking is. We must always take into consideration that phrase. Always, when you do something of critical thinking, look back to that phrase. This assignment is hard, but I can do it. It should be a topic that they're interested in, where they can maybe rationalize, not something they have invented. It has to be hard text where they get informed. Okay. So I would give you an example. This is a great example for any grade level because what you do is you paste what happens, right? But if the student doesn't know how to write, you could just tell them, okay, can you tell me the story of what happened? And the evidence is the pictures. They have something to rationalize and get somewhere while they're explaining what happened. If for upper grades, they can write it down, enter more into detail, maybe ask for a certain amount of sentences, paragraphs, even write a whole story about the pictures. And then that's how they do their critical thinking. It's very neat because it could be just like, let's say the dog with the leash, correct? So they walk. Okay, so it could be Sammy found a dog. He didn't know what to do with the dog and always wondered, and so on. And then he would say, well, he eventually got it, and with the leash. So that's where he would get his rationality and evidence from the pictures. Okay. 10 critical thinking skills to help students become thinkers. I'm sorry for the bad quality. Hold on. Distinguish facts from assertions of value without evidence. Distinguish relevant from irrelevant information, claims, or reasons. Determine the factual accuracy of a statement. Identifying ambitious claims or arguments. Identifying unstated assumptions. Detecting bias. Identifying logical fallacies. Recognizing logical inconsistencies in a line of reasoning. Determining the strength of an argument or claim. Okay, so what is this helpful for? It is useful as we as teachers work to help our students to become better thinkers. Just always keep these in mind, just so it's nothing made up. There you have a guideline where you could actually go back into this and do your critical thinking based on this and not just something made up. Okay? So your next thing is you can improve students' critical thinking skills by nurturing in the following ways. Give me a second. What does this mean? Okay, so these are some topics you could use to nurture their critical thinking. Teachers teach fewer topics but in greater depth. The length is more principal. Don't mix a lot of topics. If you're going to talk about immigration, for example, per se, just ask, what do you think about immigration? What is it to you? Just keep it short and simple, so that you don't have a lot of topics. Like, let's say immigration again. What is immigration? What are the laws of immigration? How do you know? No. Keep it short and simple so their minds can open and just focus on that and not just get confused or just write whatever and they would just focus on one topic. Okay? The next one is encourage some intellectual skepticism by urging students to question the challenges challenge ideas, and to understand that our knowledge and understanding change over time. So this is a very neat activity where you could do is, firstly, what do you think about a certain topic? Let's say a current event. What do you think? And then let them research about it and write what they thought about it after they researched. Were they wrong right about the current article they read? They knew about, the research, all that. I'm sorry. Model critical thinking by thinking out loud while analyzing a persuasive argument in a scientific or public policy document. This is more into the science field. What do you think in an experiment is going to happen? That is critical thinking. That is very important. I'm sorry. The next one is provide opportunities to practice critical thinking. Like, let's say, flaws in arguments, substitution of opinion and the opinion for facts. I'm sorry, give me a second. Okay, so that is very important because this one is more about them just maybe a non-graded assessment where they can just, maybe practice their critical thinking, and eventually it would be an informative assessment, a formative assessment. Start out with an informative assessment. Provide opportunities to practice critical thinking. That's the same thing, most of what I just said. Ask questions that encourage you to think critically. Ask topics that it's relevant, that they're interested in, because once they start, research about the topic, and they'll get into it and write more. Their writing skill and critical thinking will improve. Have students debate issues from different perspectives. This is a very, very good exercise you could do. For example, you could divide the class, and then you would say, okay, the topic is uniforms. Let's say, okay, one side is against it and one side is for it, and they would have to research what they think, and just talk about facts. As it says, you have to have rationality and evidence, as I said in the first slide. And this would really, enhance their critical and nurture their critical thinking, a debate. Assist students in building the positions and habits that support hard work and thinking critically. Encourage them, never discourage them more than anything. Build authentic learning activities to help students with their critical thinking skills. Something they can learn from, not just a topic just for fun. Maybe that would be more when they're not graded or just as a start. But this is also that do something where they are learning. Strategies that promote students' engagement. Student engagement. It also talks about this, student engagement. Student engagement is defined as activity, student involvement in learning tasks that are meaningful, relevant, and motivated to the student. Okay, example. So what does this mean? Okay, so student engagement. One of the activities that would be relevant, fun, and that would engage with me maybe, let's say you're gonna teach percentage, correct? You would make maybe a store, put items in it, and then give them 1 minute to buy whatever they want to buy from that store that you made up. And then they would have to come up with the total of what they bought with the percentage, of the taxes. So they would have to get the tax of each item, add it up. So right there, you're doing a hands-on activity. And while they're learning actually taxes and, real life situations where they will use that in real life. I think that is very important. Teach students lessons where they can also apply them in real life situations, because that stays with them more than anything. Okay? Oh, I'm sorry. It also talks about state of flow. I feel this is not emphasized as much as it should. What this state of flow is? It's when students are completely absorbed in the task at hand, to the point where they lose track of time and are unaware of fatigue or anything else but the activity itself. Does teacher need to consider how to support their students' feelings of confidence about the task at hand? Never make your lessons long. This is how I interpret this text. Because they will get tired, they will get distracted, it gets boring, you get frustrated as a student. I think everything, to everyone it has happened, maybe. So always keep it short, simple, fun. That is my example. For example, if you're reading a book, a long book, maybe for a 5th grade Esperanza Rising, you wouldn't want to do a chapter read out loud just by the teacher because it would be long and boring. Maybe you would want to read out loud with the students. Get them in groups, then read them one part of the chapter assigned to them. Okay, so we also need to take this always in mind. Practice application. This is what does this mean? It talks about the strategy, which is apply hands-on material for students to practice using new content knowledge. Provide activities for students to apply content and language knowledge in the classroom. Integrate all language skills into the classroom. So what does this mean? What this means is that always make them hands-on practice. Let's say, for example, again, I will use the example for a 5th grade class reading Esperanza Rising. Maybe you would want to do a project on the chapters, assign a chapter for a group, get students in groups, assign them a chapter, read that chapter, and then, they could actually draw what happened in the chapter. And as the chapter goes on, their chapter comes up, they put up the pictures in the board. And when the book ends, then they would have a whole timeline and pictures of the whole book, and that would make it fun. And I think they would understand it even better and memorize it better with visuals rather than just read the book and take the test. So that is very practice application for reading. Provide that the language knowledge is in the classroom is very important. So that is all that it talks about, the main ideas of support. I hope you liked my video and I went over everything. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.